Howdy, partners. Welcome back. We're here at the desk for our last game of the week of number 7 here in the SPL, and this one's going to be an absolute North American barn burner.
You know, despite how competitive both regions have been, North America specifically, this has been the week of stomps.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen, like, I think 7 sub 20-minute games, something like that, like 6 F6s. It's been a really one-sided show this week, and I think a lot of that has to do with some of the teams that we expected or didn't expect. Everyone kind of solidifying themselves, right? We're over the halfway mark. We're starting to make the final run for DreamHack. Now teams are like really putting in the effort, especially because, you know, outside of Panthera, no one has qualified just yet or even looks to have a safe path to qualify. And the other teams who haven't been putting in the work, I think it's really starting to show as well.
You know, it's that safe path that really is stopping a lot of these teams from just going forward. They realize that there just isn't any. And today's matchup, we've got Luminosity versus Denial. I mean, these teams are extremely well matched.
Yeah, Luminosity actually looking much better ever since bringing in Scary D for that soul lane over Snoopy. It really should be an interesting matchup because andinster came out yesterday or the other day after they faced enemy and split, right? And this is a pretty big statement coming out of andinster, right? He said that he didn't expect the team to lose a single game against enemy, and he doesn't expect them to lose a single game for the rest of the split. And that includes having to face off against Eager and Soar again, I believe. So yeah, that's a pretty bold statement to make.
Yeah, a lot of heavy competition coming up for Luminosity. But actually, Luminosity, stepping away from all the competition for a second, this is actually really exciting. During the Spring Fling, we offered a end goal, or one of the goals. If we raised 15 grand, you would get the Dry Bear man himself back on the desk. Well, you got it. It's going to be Luminosity versus Team Eager. We're going to ease him in here, okay? We'll give him 2 teams that he knows.
That was honestly like it. We were like, hey, Dry Bear, you know, winter schedule. Let's try and get this as soon. You know, we want to make sure that people who donate for the Spring Fling, they're going to have, you know, a couple days to adjust their schedules. And I'm like, which players do you still know in this scene? I'm like, let's just do LG versus Eager. That should be easy. He's going to recognize most names. So Driver's going to be back here, and he's going to be casting that set. That's Thursday. That's going to be the second set shown, roughly around 4:30. We'll see that playoff. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting. It's going to be a pretty exciting day to have Dry Bear back here on the desk.
I'm personally just real excited for those of you that don't know the whole legacy. I mean, that was the first person that I ever casted any game ever at all was with Dry Bear. I was his chair 2 over on Tier Monster, and I'm going to do it again. I'm just real excited.
I casted an arena tournament with Dry Bear once, Tier Monster Arena.
Oh yeah, you got to watch Omega stare at minions?
No, it wasn't even that. It was even worse. I think it was like really low. It was like just a regular arena, like people I didn't know.
Well, Luminosity will be
3 years ago.
Luminosity should be a little bit of a different experience. And today, Luminosity versus Denial will certainly be a different experience. These 2 evenly matched teams going head to head right now as we get into our picks and bans.
Look at this, BaRRaCCuDDa left untouched in the middle of 4, finds the stun. He's going to be focusing Mast tight to the back line. There goes Stealth, and there goes Mast as well. Triple kill coming up from BaRRaCCuDDa, and Luminosity are looking good to close out game 2. Trying to find the last hit. That's the 3rd kill in a row for andinster, and this is Luminosity. You can't count them out at any stage in the game. Looking for a 3rd, but BaRRaCCuDDa might be able to turn this. And a double kill for the BaRRaCCuDDa.
Getting in here with Denial on the left, Luminosity on the right. So the Chaos Squad gets first pick, first ban. And Denial, I wonder where their head's at as far as this one's concerned, Kevin.
I think they're pretty confident. I think Mask has kind of synergized well with the roster since they've brought him back. We're starting to see the Mask we had expected to see at the beginning of the split that really wasn't working so hot with Envy here.
Yeah, Luminosity, they'll go ahead and ban out the Zeus. Both of these teams really tend to like the Zeus, whether it's BaRRaCCuDDa or otherwise on the side of Denial.
Everyone loves Zeus at this point. Everyone loves Zeus.
He's just too easy to kill.
He's
so
you say that.
Kill.
Yeah, if you're looking at casuals, but a competitive, that's the thing, right? A lot of these teams, they draft the junglers and the supports to keep him alive. And if you do have a really good support at peeling, which I think Shadowq kind of emphasizes that, it's not something you want to allow the opponent team to get. And honestly, Xenotronics has been quietly a very solid mid laner. I don't want to say he's been the best.
No, I'm totally
He definitely hasn't been bad. He's just been very similar to Chaos of last split. I think Chaos of this split is, you know, evolving into a top-tier player now. A little bit more consistency, right? If I see that happen for a couple more weeks, the level of play he's been at, I think I will view him as a clear top tier. But Xeno's just kind of been in the middle, just been very consistent, doesn't have bad games, doesn't have good games. And Denial Esports looks like they're taking a little bit of an LG strategy. If Thor is left up, you pick Thor.
Exactly. Andinster, especially coupled with the speed buff on the new map that we have going on here. Thor is going to be extremely highly contested.
Or Sobek. It's Sobek, right? You pick up the Sobek, and then Denial can't pick Awilix unless they run Thor somewhere else.
Well,
no, it's Athena. Okay.
I'm going to go with the Vulcan and the Athena. So the Vulcan first pick is interesting.
Wow.
I don't hate Vulcan. I actually really like Vulcan. I think Vulcan is strong. I think TheBoosh is very strong and could play Vulcan as well. But seeing him here in the first, you're not necessarily... He's not going to be banned out.
And I love this immediate pickup of Sobek by Denial, right? You can't let LG have a kind of better combo, right? The pluck into many things. But this is interesting for me because LG picks Vulcan into Thor, right? Thor is one of the best junglers at killing Vulcan specifically. Not only can you dive to the back line and Vulcan realistically doesn't have an escape outside of slight, movement adjustment from backfire, but also Berserker's Barrage is immune to knockups, which one of Vulcan's biggest peels is the fact that he drops the meatball onto himself and any jungler gets knocked away.
Shibalanke going to be selected for the ban coming out of Luminosity. So with the Anhur selection for LG, they want to make sure that the enemy hunter wants to fight into that.
This is an Awilix ban. There's absolutely no reason Denial should not ban Awilix away at some point, right? You've got Anhur, you've got Vulcan, the double knockup. Andinster has been known to be a very strong Awilix player as well. They're also going to be targeting out his Naja, so it's focused on junglers right now. I will be surprised if Awilix is not banned here.
The Artemis ban one more time, so Luminosity really don't want those late game hunters coming out. Again, with the Anhur pick, they want somebody that'll fight during the mid game. But Denial here, does Benji... Now here's the thing, Luminosity get one pick with the Hun Bats ban. If they don't pick the Awilix, you got to start thinking, if you're a Denial fan, does Benji play that solo lane Awilix?
No, I don't think Benji plays solo lane Awilix. The only thing I've ever seen Benji on is like Bellona and Jingten. Jingten from last season, right? And he might bring it back as well here. That's interesting, though. I wonder if LG really didn't want to pick Awilix, and it doesn't look like they do. They're actually going to grab the Fenrir. So while it may not be the Vulcan, knock up into the Awilix pool, you do have the combination where Fenrir can lock someone in and guarantee the Earthbreaker coming out of Vulcan.
And that's why we saw the Naja ultimate to avoid that necessary combination of just the up into the necessary Vulcan damage. Bellona will be the choice for Benji, most likely, unless something funny goes along. And the Ullr will be the selection for Denial.
We haven't seen Ullr in quite some time here. This is interesting, but actually a lot of escapability and mobility coming out of Denial, right? Not only solo. Oh, so it is going to be the Awilix. Okay.
Yep.
So Fenrir solo lane is what I'm looking at more than likely. That is a SPL special. We saw that not so much this season, but last season when he played for Elevate. We did see that quite often coming out of him.
Yeah, this is definitely a fun.
I was wondering. I'm like, Awilix would be perfect here. I'm like, okay.
No, the Awilix is still definitely in the conversation for Luminosity, especially with the Ullr selection. Fenrir, I love the choice here. Luminosity locks in the Fenrir. Ullr gets picked anticipating no Awilix, and then the Awilix follows up anyway. Love the Oki.
I wonder if that was the bait to begin with because they know Vetium likes Ullr, or if that was they stole the Ullr. All right, SPL can run Fenrir, and we had picked it for a flex.
Well, Luminosity ban out a couple of late-game hunters that also conveniently don't have jumps. Denial pick a god with a jump and a couple of other characters that can be knocked up. Will the Vulcan Awilix pay off? Let's take a look. Luminosity versus Denial.
Still looking to go in.
Benji made it out. Xenotronics over the wall. We'll take out Ionic, and now dashing corner. Xeno finds a double kill.
Mace in the face, turning back around, massive the jungle though. He just two-shot him! Look to try and dash away, but the ball's already there. And Benji recognizes that, doesn't use his dash, ults in place, gets the stun, turn around, kill 2v1.
I absolutely love that picture of Benji coming out of there. That's how I always picture him. He's just slightly ahead in lane, doing work, and then gets the cheesy 1-2 kill.
He's just like, he just likes trolling, man. That's Benji. And like when he just outplays you, he just... he feels so good. That's one of the things too, is that, you know, we don't talk about it too often, but mentality is very big for players, right? It was mentioned most notably talking about Snoopy. Actually, BaRRaCCuDDa brought it up, where, you know, Snoopy is a very good player. We know he's phenomenal, but he got pretty demoralized. And having that upbeat attitude, especially if you're playing well, honestly makes you play better. Early blink actually coming out here.
The early jump as well, stun coming out, and there's the follow-up. Not going to find a kill, but Benji will. Andinster goes down for first blood, and that'll only be a problem as Andy did, well, he didn't have the red pot, but ScaryD trying to get out, Mask giving chase.
He's got his jump in a second. Actually going to try and outplay Mask there, and ScaryD comes up with the return kill. Mask not able to read the timing on that jump there. A little bit off on the cooldown marker, but still first blood does happen, and I'm pretty sure Andinster had a red pot.
No, I'm not sure. He does have the boot.
No, he's got boots, so he didn't go red pot, but still.
Exactly.
Mast actually did, so that actually might be an even trade. I think he just bought the boot. I'm not sure.
It winds up
So
being,
Thor had red pot and Awilix didn't.
Exactly.
Pretty even trade, I would say.
Yep, winds up being all things equal. Benji able to rotate over and get these fire minions as well, so he'll be up 95 gold.
The worrying part here for ScaryD is the fact that Benji got the first blood, which means he's got that 300 gold advantage. So even though Mask is probably down in regards to him versus Andinster, ScaryD is definitely down in regards to him versus Benji.
And Mask, is, as he rotates, he'll be able to pick up a wave here or there, but flat up just 1 versus 2 over there in the solo lane. That's a little bit of a different situation.
Ooh,
Poke coming out onto the Awilix. Andy's got to go. Not just poke, but some real hard damage. Brings the assassin down to
Can we
40.
highlight over Andinster real quick? I want to see if he leveled Suku, because I don't think he did. That was 100% a kill if BaRRaCCuDDa actually does not land that knockup. But because of that, Mask got pushed a little bit away, and it gave Andinster time to make space, because I'm pretty sure Berserker's Barrage was up. Andinster would have found his second death in the jungle sub 2 minutes.
Would have been pretty rough, but Andy winds up finding a way out. And earlier we were talking a lot about the player mentality and sort of the cultures of these teams. And different players are motivated by different things. Luminosity are motivated strictly by winning, right? These guys really want to bring it home. I mean, just what we heard Andinster say earlier in the week.
And looks like Denial here has about that 500 gold lead, but the red pot still was wasted on the Mask, so not that big of a thing. The question here is how ScaryD recovers or doesn't recover. And actually, he's going to go aggressive on a Benji. Benji actually does have a lot, but here comes Andy.
Andy with the blink underneath the tower looking for more, and Benji in some trouble. Feather Step will be enough, and the kill goes the way of Luminosity. Andy on the good side of that one this time around. Him and ScaryD combined for the kill on the solo.
I like what Benji does there. So he actually ults in place. I'm assuming he was expecting the Awilix rotation, because there's no way he realistically kills ScaryD there if he ults into tower, right? That was the whole point. It's like, maybe he can kill ScaryD in a return trade, because with Andinster here, there's no way I'm getting out of her free, so I might as well ult in the tower and try and make a play. And we actually, I think we saw that the other day as well against Eager specifically, where it was a 2v1 and actually a Bellona was able to trade out successfully.
Yeah, that up-down that we've seen out of Bellona so often has been very powerful. This red buff, no surprises, going to Ullr. The Transcendence build coming out for the stance-switching Hunter on the side of Denial. This is a build specifically pointed at ability-based Hunters, and ScaryD, quite ability-based, but not going to use him, despite the rotation from Shadowq all the way over to the right, or JeffHindla, excuse me, all the way over to the right side.
All is even, though, for now, it seems. Boots starting to come online for players. Nothing too crazy right now outside of that Transcendence on Ullr. Doesn't have the golden bow that we see a lot of players go into, and you know what's interesting, actually, is the fact that Throwing Dagger is now being upgraded into Golden Bow, and Golden Bow itself is not super stat efficient for its direct cost, but you buy Throwing Dagger for 1350 to have control in the lane against people with high clear, and then it's only 1,000 more gold for 30 power and 8% movement speed, and a little bit of better passive, although it's not, the passive really doesn't matter, because by then your lane clear is already good.
Exactly, and you know, when you mention the gold cost for just that step from rank 2 to rank 3, that's really where the efficiency comes out, so players have been finishing it. But Ullr, on the other hand, as I mentioned, he's largely ability-based. The Transcendence going to give him a large chunk of power, but more importantly, it'll also give him a huge mana pool to allow him to dish out the axe stun into the volley, into the spirit arrow.
I'm really excited, because I want to see what builds players are going to come out with. Right now, Hunters, there's actually a couple different builds, and people actually will sacrifice their damage to go into more utility, right? We're starting to see Fatalis builds in the Snoopy build. We're starting to see, actually, Ataraxia, I don't think you guys took note of it, because it happened at the end of the game here, as actually Benji getting aggressed on again.
One more time, half HP, jumping away would be Benji, and Andy thinks about it, but quickly jumps off of Suku. not a big deal.
But BaRRaCCuDDa actually sold his boots for Masamune at the end of the game because he had his Fatalis as well, so that equaled out. It's actually 20 movement speed, actually above boots by 2%.
Exactly, and then the Masamune brings a chunk of damage as well, 50 on that item. And here's the blink forward, and there's a step forward as well.
Oh,
not
that was
enough to find
unfortunate.
the kill.
Andinster actually, actually, Mass coming down, going aggressive, trying to find ScaryD here, switching targets to Andinster, but there comes the Athena, and Mass backs off.
And I love the decision right there coming from Luminosity. Two separate different paths. You've got to choose. You can't just chase up the lane and catch up to whoever you catch up to. You've got to make a decision, and because of that, Mask wasn't really able to lock a single player down. Nobody dies.
And Xenotronics helping out Mass there. Athena comes crashing down, so the slow in the jungle does help him get away here. And like I said in the picks and bans, Xenotronics has been quietly solid on this roster, right? He doesn't really go off anytime. He doesn't really fall behind. Just a very consistent player, and I think he's going to play a lot around Mast in this game.
And that's really the kind of player you want to step in halfway through the season. Don't forget, Mace of the Face was a part of this roster as well. You want that ultimate role player when you're replacing somebody on the roster halfway through. You know, if they're a superstar, sure, but they're probably already on a team if they're a superstar.
You know, here's my thing too, because this actually fits kind of the composition that Enemy had built last year. Like I said, I think Chaos is evolving into a top-tier North American player, maybe even a top-tier world player, but he was just that consistent filler on that Enemy roster that went to the finals of Worlds, and that's exactly what Xenotronics needs to be. He doesn't need to try and make flashy plays. He doesn't need to overextend himself. He just needs to be in position and follow up off of Mast, Benji, and Vetium.
And once in a while, his team will put him in a position to go ahead and wind up with that double kill and wind up with the triple kill around the Gold Furies and stuff. That's what a mid-mage does, but he takes the games as they come to him. He's willing to play whatever it is Denial really need him on, and because of that flexibility and that desire just to win and be a part of the team, Denial has proven to be very successful in a meta where the mid lane is integral to success.
Shadowq trying to find a pick onto JeffHindla, but the rest of LG are hanging around. They knock him up, Andinster with no ult though, and actually ScaryD has teleported in, rotated, and I think that was a call by Andinster saying that a fight was about to break out, but it dispersed, so he just jumps forward and steals the mid camps.
No big deal there, but there is a teleport advantage for the next couple of minutes going the way of Denial. So Benji will be able to hard rotate as he is right now.
And this is fine because Benji had that gold advantage early on because he was able to successfully first blood Andinster. So even though ScaryD loses a little bit of wave XP and gold here, he's actually recouped that since Andinster has camped his lane often. You can already see only 500 down now.
The right lane still being aggressive. ScaryD as Benji makes it back. I want to see if he takes this aggression onto the player now instead of just the wave. Benji certainly is. Takes ScaryD down to about 75.
used his jump. It's free poke. You could see, even worried about getting hit by the bludgeon, ScaryD brutalizes the way, but Benji wants to take a trip back to base.
And there's the Gold Fury response from Denial. And Mask immediately takes out JeffHindla. The ultimate from BaRRaCCuDDa going to be spaced out.
Gold
Nobody
Fury?
on Denial.
This should be a Gold Fury tip. Benji has rotated over. They know ScaryD's teleport is down. Only BaRRaCCuDDa and BaRRaCCuDDa to stop, and BaRRaCCuDda's ultimate, he's already used it. It's going to be very hard for LG to steal this, and really good zoning coming out.
Yeah, Anhur being taken out by Benji. Not killed, but just pushed. And that's really the important part is to now go ahead and confirm the Gold Fury. 2,000 up are the blue team.
Super intelligent play coming out from Denial. They know ScaryD had already rotated over with his teleport. They saw him steal those mid camps. He rotates back to the lane. Benji can TP in. They pick JeffHindla, and then after that, BaRRaCCuDDa ults. There's really nothing to contest the Gold Fury outside of BaRRaCCuDDa's ultimate, and that's what Benji knows too. He just sits there, he face tanks BaRRaCCuDDa, and BaRRaCCuDDa tries, but it's already done.
And I like the timing as well coming out from Denial. They realize that now the teleports are going to be offset. There is going to be a situation where Luminosity will have the teleport advantage, but by going as early as they did, as soon as Denial realizes that ScaryD is in the wrong spot, after necessary amount of time, they're able to make that rotation very quickly. So the amount of time that will be separated with these two teleports once Luminosity comes up and Denial is down is very low. You're talking about 50-ish seconds looking at that. So that's a situation where Denial don't have to worry as much as LG did because the Gold Fury won't even be up.
And another thing too is their buffs should be cleared. Maybe the red buff spawns around that time, but I don't think realistically ScaryD and LG are going to be able to force anything at that time.
Exactly.
And that was actually to add on to how perfect that Gold Fury was, there was actually no jungle up for Denial as well. We actually saw Andinster rotate over to the speed buff, trying to steal it away. The the blue buff was down as well, and there wasn't even back harpies to seal. So
Absolutely
LG, who are very good at giving up objectives or just putting light pressure on them so they can steal the rest of the jungle away, so they get some sort of trade, weren't able to successfully do that in that situation.
Just so many small decisions being a part of the larger one. Here's ScaryD trying to make one very big decision, and it will go the way of him. There's the ultimate from Athena as well. Can't catch up to Benji, but a taunt after the dash. And it's not going to be on the menu. There's the dash.
Just
no
looking for farm. No way they could follow up. ScaryD's too low, doesn't have the mana, doesn't have his ult. He wants to take a trip back to the base, but Mass there with a little bit of a mechanical misstep, not respecting ScaryD's ability to turn on him, and that's what you always have to be aware of when you dive soul laners, especially when they're a couple levels ahead of you and have abilities that can lock you under tower, that you're going to take tower shots, and even if he beads, which he does, he's still going to get stunned out, and he still takes an extra tower shot, and ScaryD's able to follow up.
Just always have to be aware of not just your opponents, not just your own output, but your opponents as well. Like you said, just a little bit of underestimation there coming out from the guys on Denial, and that'll put Luminosity slightly in the head with respects to kills. Although Denial, thanks to their early gold fury, still leading by about 1,500 gold. Andinster making the rotation over towards mid lane, had the Sobek behind him, so he knows the Sobek's going to meet up with him here in the mid.
And now the question is, when is the next move? Is there going to be continuous picks? Because it's actually been... Anhur has put a lot of pressure on the soul lane trying to get ScaryD ahead, but he actually hasn't been able to get ahead. He's only actually stayed even for the most part. Even there, where ScaryD was able to pick up a solo kill, Benji's still 900 gold ahead of him now, closing in on 1,000, and Benji has just been abusing that advantage all game.
And this is why Benji's been such a strong part of this team this year and last year. Is just he's always pushing up, he's always being aggressive, and it generally winds up paying off. He knows exactly how to take these one-on-one fights, and although he failed last time around, that's the exception of the rule. Mass going to get aggressed on. Beautiful feather step to stop the teleport to the hammer, but even with that, Mask is safe underneath his own tower. Andy, on the other hand, getting aggressed on. Mask gets the picked off by BaRRaCCuDDa.
The auto attack. The auto attack was brutal coming out for Mask. It actually slowed him down. If he does an auto attack there, he actually does not get reduced movement speed. He can move forward. He's going to be out of that range. Right-hand side, though, ScaryD getting dove. I'm assuming no jump for him. There it is. Actually does get a stun onto Benji. And actually a little bit of a heal from Scary as well off of that Seething Howl. And Benji going to meditate for now. One more hit. Who's it going to go to? Actually, it looks like he'll stay alive for now. The return kill not going to be enough. JeffHindla hits the last auto.
ScaryD with the meditation bait. Shadowq shows up to punish ScaryD, but the damage has been done. Benji, I was just crediting him for his ability to assess 1v1 situations and take the fights when they were necessary, but the surprise meditation out of the Woof Woof.
They both had meditation.
Yeah.
They both had meditation there. Both used it. I thought it was the Seething Howl, but unfortunate there for Benji. However, Shadowq able to rotate in and get a cheeky little kill. That's actually surprising because ScaryD was just like, oh man, there's just a couple more minions here. Let me jump forward, and then surprise Sobek.
One more wave syndrome, man.
The worst Sobeks, the surprise ones.
One more wave syndrome. Vetium here, level 14, directly related to BaRRaCCuDDa's level 14.
Are we doing Vetium now, or is it Vetium?
It's Vetium.
Because he said both.
Yeah. So actually, here's the story of the dude's name. I reached out to him last year when he first started making a name for himself, and I was like, how do you pronounce it? He goes, Vetium. Excellent. We take that to the bank and we all say Vetium. Then later on, he goes, hey, I looked up the word. It's not the word that I actually thought of. It turns out I made it up, so it's Vetium, not Vetium now. And listen, man.
I'm just gonna call him a troll.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
I'm gonna call him a memer.
He's 14. Him and BaRRaCCuDDa extremely even. There's about a 200-ish gold lead going the way of Denial's Hunter.
Which is the Gold Fury.
Exactly.
That early Gold Fury gives you a little bit of boost, not the full amount, but still very useful. And BaRRaCCuDDa's gone into the Aussie. Same with Vetium, Troll, Memer.
Connor Roberts.
Mr. Roberts.
Mr. Roberts.
Same with Mr. Roberts here. And a couple. So this game has been surprising, right? Because typically we don't see a lot of picks in North America. A lot of times it's focused around team fighting. Right. I think Enemy exemplifies that perfectly. But Luminosity has been putting so much pressure onto the solo lane and not really getting a benefit off of it. And actually, Mask has actually done a really good job of picking players off as they rotate. Now, he's the majority of the deaths on his team, so he's suffered a little bit, but still, it's allowed Denial to have that pressure to get that early Gold Fury.
And you see the rest. You see the rest, as you said. There is a little bit of a lead for Benji in the solo lane, 1,000 gold up. So a lot of that has to do with Luminosity trying to weather that storm. If Luminosity's not over in that short lane as much as they are, Benji's ahead 1,500 gold, right? Maybe even more so.
Yes.
This is 1,000 gold lead and a dead tower with multiple ganks over in the solo lane. This is what Benji's been able to do in multiple seasons, and it's why he's been such an asset. Look at it right there, just backing.
Mass is in the air though, so they have this red. Vetium in a lot of trouble here. Mass does land on a BaRRaCCuDDa, and the Gold Fury's reset. Here comes Xenotronics doing a lot of damage to the boost, almost finishing him off. There's the shell, and he's trying to create space between him and Shadowq, but the pluck back and the hammer snipe Mask.
Love that play coming out of Shadow and Max, the 1-2 punch, making sure the farm goes the right way onto the jungler, right into the damage of BaRRaCCuDDa. ScaryD brings Xenotronics into the bad spot, but Vetium also gets put down. That's 1 kill on Luminosity's side, but Denial have lost 2. And look at where Shadowq is. This might be 3, but Benji's rotation proves fruitful, and he'll be able to push the enemy off. So a 2 for 1. Denial wind up on the downside, on the bad side, on the not so hot side, but Luminosity don't successfully get the Gold Fury that they had started.
I mean, that's still in LG's favor, right? Because they weren't
100%
necessarily. I don't think they were going to really full commit onto the Gold Fury to begin with. I think they were trying to bait someone in, and actually, you saw that as well. Vetium's the first one in the Gold Fury, gets immediately poked out. He's got to jump away, and then by the time he rotates back in, once again, andinster just jumps on him, focuses him down, and finishes him off. And that was just a really nice play. And Denial full committed very heavily, trying to pick off. I believe it was. It was BaRRaCCuDDa, right? And they were successful, but they invested so much and got grouped up that they couldn't really fight once LG countered.
Yeah, there was the turnaround from LG, and you had the Sobek ultimate down, the hammer was down, so no repositionment coming out from Thor, and then really the play was ScaryD. He picks Xenotronics up and just walks right into the Desert Fury, ensuring that all 10 hits securely find a spot right in the brain of Xeno, and the dead mid laner really changed the subject.
JeffHindla getting focused again here. Shadowq on the front line goes into lurking for waters, but no one's really in position to follow up there. They've got to back out. And that was, I think, Denial thinking that JeffHindla was a little bit less tanky than he actually was.
Yeah, I mean, he's got both Aura items online already, Sovereignty and Heartward, so he and his teammates are a little bit more tanky than you might have anticipated, coupled with those tank boots as well. So just a whole lot of health protections on the side of Jeff.
You can see Spirits were up there, and I expect this to be picked up on Mast as well eventually. There's so much CC on Luminosity, right? Not only ScaryD's jump, but so many other things.
And while we're on the subject of itemization, the Heartseeker coming out for the first time in a long time. It's definitely not the same old item that you're used to. This is more of an ability-based item now.
I'm really surprised, actually, because I thought that was going to be Stone Cutting Sword. I saw that being built up. I saw the 1,000-fold blades at rank 2, and I was like, that's Stone Cutting Sword, which we see a lot from Awilix's because they like to be in the front line in auto attack. But andinster working on this, and this is pretty good, I think. I don't know mathematically how it's going to work out for him, if he should have, gone for the more Stone Cutting Sword to steal away protections. But as you hit auto attacks, you get stacks, and that actually increases your attack speed. And then after 5 auto attacks, your next ability hit is actually plus 40 power, which can combine very nicely with Awilix's Feather Step, which already hits like a truck.
Exactly, and then once that Feather Step is down, you're able to utilize that attack speed to just sort of chew through the opposition. I'm eager to see if we'll see a Chin Sai a little bit later, which is an item that was built on Awilix once upon a time, and now not so much. Players really focused on the penetration and the raw power. But with this Heartseeker, I think we might see a little bit of a different build coming out. Either way, I'm on the edge of my seat looking to see what Andy builds on the Awilix for sure.
I mean, Andy, this is the Heartseeker's still cheap, right? It's 1,800 gold. You're not investing an extra 300-400. And I think this item specifically was built because andinster feels like the next fight is going to be very crucial, and he doesn't want to wait the gold to finish that Stone Cutting blade.
I mean, Stone Cutting Sword is 1,600 gold to get from rank 2 to 3.
Yes.
1,800 for the whole item. Heartseeker is going to be a little bit more quick to come online. ScaryD already poked out a little bit, and you can hear the Thor go in the air So a target going to be looked for by Mask right on top of the dog, and it's going to get a couple of players stunned out. There's Xenotronics' ultimate, and ScaryD trying to find a way out of the backside. He successfully will. Benji very low, but everybody's chasing Vetium, and he shows up looking for the feather step. Stunned out, forced a purification. ScaryD with 1 kill, nobody on Denial with a kill at all. It's a 5v4. Luminosity pushed the entirety of Denial out, and they'll get a look at the Gold Fury.
LG just completely baited Denial into a small corridor. We saw actually Desert's Fury doing so much AoE damage. JeffHindla trying to zone here. Mast actually behind the Gold Fury. Luminosity will secure, and actually they're looking for some more kills. ScaryD jumps very aggressively at a low health here, and he could be in some trouble. Here comes Mask, but he's going to jump the hammer. And now Mask forced to Sanctuary, but it looks like LG, they want to play it safe. They're going to back up. They got the Gold Fury. They killed Shadowq. Let's just back out.
ScaryD has been so incredibly slippery. He's 4-1-3, Kevin, but I wish we had a stat of how many times he's been 10% health or less.
Yes.
Because that should be 4-10-3 for all intents for the way that Denial have been pushing him out. They just can't find the final hit.
I mean, like, under tower kills Benji when getting dove right there, and that was his only death to return.
Yep.
Another time when at the beginning of the game, first blood goes to andinster, and then ScaryD outplays Mass with like 5% life. Then I said, you know, the Benji outplaying Benji under the tower. And then in the first Gold Fury fight, it was the same thing where he barely lives. And then in that fight right there, barely lives once again.
And it's not lack of trying on Denial's end. ScaryD is able to find just the extra amount of space, whether it's through the brutalize or the jumps. ScaryD has been incredibly slippery, and Denial
really
just can't lock him.
Honestly, it's really good awareness of ability cooldowns. It's one thing to be facing off in the soul lane and be like, I know what Bellona's cooldowns are. I know when I need to jump. I know when I need to juke this stuff. That's easy. But in the middle of a team fight, when not only are all your abilities going off, but 5 other opponents and 4 of your teammates to be able to keep track and know who's going to be able to aggress on you and have that confidence to jump forward at that low of an HP, just trying to set up and then still be able to get out. That is not something that you could teach someone. That is something that you have to learn and just put in the hours.
Also, the reliance on the team, which also comes from just playing in the hours together. That's something we've heard repeatedly from these players in their post-game interviews, that teams are just spending more time together now. And now you're used to, well, I know Andy's going to come up if I take this route because that's what Andy does. I know that from playing over and over again with him. So the more time we see ScaryD spend on this Luminosity roster, expect more and more of this aggressive yet calculated aggression is really the key.
You know, it's funny because LG just takes players that have really strong natural skill, but for lack of a better term, are stupid. Like that's actually a very bad statement, but like people who like don't really think about the game, all they do are they're just very good at pressing buttons. And that's one thing that ScaryD was. He's a very young kid. He could outplay people in the soul lane, but you look at Basket, he was the same way. He was just very good at pressing buttons. And LG, andinster, BaRRaCCuDDa, JeffHindla, they teach you how to play on a competitive level, how to play on a world stage. Even though they've never played on a world stage, they bring that experience.
Or even not even necessarily just teaching the players how to do that, but getting them in the mindset. I'll expand on that in a moment as Purification is chased out by Xenotronics, but ScaryD still finds a target with the ultimate, and there's BaRRaCCuDDa to combine. 1 kill for the mid laner as Shadowq goes down. Vetium still being chased out. 4 members of Denial underneath this tier 2. Luminosity don't have a Gold Sphere to go to since it's already down, so they are pleasantly surprised to find themselves in the mid lane, barking down a tier 2.
I have no idea. Oh, actually, speaking of that, Benji getting taunted out. He should be fine. Vetium under tower, though. Actually, Mask coming crashing down as well. ScaryD, 10%. Is he going to get out again? Here's Benji. Nope. He's not going to let the Wolf get out that time, and he finds a return kill as LG a little bit too aggressive against the Thor.
Triple stun coming out from Benji, and yes, Luminosity had the momentum in their sails for a while, even leading by over 1,000 gold. But the solo lane rotation from the level 20 Bellona was able to find a couple of stuns, and ScaryD gets his second death of the contest.
You know, I think that was LG not even... The taunt on Benji was there, but they really didn't want to commit to Benji. They were actually looking for Vetium there. Vetium, though, recognizes it and actually pulls back and just out of range of that taunt. You saw it. You just saw the animation just short of him. And then the team's like, whatever, we got Benji, let's commit on him. But that was the mistake, was that they committed onto Bellona, who is almost full build at 24 minutes. You could see Spirit's Robe 2 there was so tanky, they couldn't even come close to killing him. And then Mask comes crashing down because LG's so grouped trying to finish off that Bellona.
And it's only going to get worse as far as the attention to the Bellona is. Mantle of Discord finished off now with the sale of the Death Toll, so a lot more tanky is going to be Benji. And there's JeffHindla trying to do what he can, bringing Vetium down to half, and ScaryD trying to do it even further, but instead we'll find a different target. BaRRaCCuDDa off the mark, but BaRRaCCuDDa certainly not. Xenotronics falls down. There's the knockup to separate the Athena ultimate from landing on top, but it happens anyway. Shadowq in trouble.
Oh,
There's the wall into the wall, and BaRRaCCuDDa with the backfire takes out Shadowq.
Such a beautiful play coming out from LG, just completely body blocking off Shadowq. The second kill of the fight after focusing out Xenotronics, and now they're 5 members strong. They're going to be stealing away these heartbeats. The question is, do they actually want to siege this tier 2? They have no ultimates up right now. They still have to worry about the Eagles rally and the Thor ult, but Thor actually forced out at the start, and Benji as well impaled against the wall. Here comes Andy from behind, looking for Vetium.
Andy can't find the feather step, but finds a number of damage numbers elsewhere. ScaryD is going to force everybody away, and again, less about the kills and more about the distance. Luminosity creates some distance between themselves and Denial. Up now, about 2,000, 3,000 gold, just about. And the tier 2 falls.
Mask
and here's
has
the
ult,
second
though.
Gold Fury.
Masked has ult, though. This is a hero play if he tries to stop this. Honestly, I think he should just concede. It's really not worth the risk.
Go for it.
He's almost guaranteed
Go
to die.
for it.
He's not on a ward, though. He sees the health, and he's going to come down.
Lands on top, finds a stun,
Oh,
finds the
my
kill out of the
word.
Gold Fury. Mask over the top with the ultimate, takes the gold and the hunter. BaRRaCCuDDa falls, and Denial tie it up.
LG did not even think that was going to be contested. You could see half the team was off. Some players backed, some players went to steal buffs, some players went to do waves, and then all of a sudden, Mask comes crashing down in a 2v1, not only steals the gold, but comes up with the kill, and now Denial, they're actually going to take this opportunity and force the Fire Giant?
They're going for it. Fire Giant now aggressed
This
on,
is
already
risky.
half HP. Very risky, but it's already being toasted. 25% on the objective. Now turning towards ScaryD and the rest of the team. Pop up from the ultimate is Shadowq, and there's Mask dealing some damage of his own on top of Athena. Stun is good, and the follow-up damage will be just as good. Fire Giant fully leashed. BaRRaCCuDDa damage, though, brings everyone down to half HP. ScaryD, he's here, but BaRRaCCuDDa takes out Mask with a backfire. Coming around the backside is ScaryD. Shadowq going to find a death as well. Double kill for the mid laner on the side of Luminosity. Now, the dog in trouble, followed up by Benji. BaRRaCCuDDa has to get out of there. Different story for Andy. He's on the aggressive. He's got the HP for now, but Benji turning things around. BaRRaCCuDDa shows up and sends Xenotronic packing. 2 kills on the side of Denial, 2 kills on the side of Luminosity. It's a 2 for 2 with no fire.
That was just beautiful from all members of both teams there. Vetium jumps over, avoiding most of andinster's damage, and then, honestly, it was, I believe, Xenotronics getting a little bit baited towards the BaRRaCCuDDa there, but hits the Sanctuary just in time to keep himself from dying. There was 3 or 4 more players there who should have died if they were half a second later on any of their relics. 2 for 2, though. Clean coming out from both teams, but that was a very risky play from Denial. They were clearly looking for the bait. The problem is they all kind of left the Fire Giant pit at the same time, and as that happened, the lava pool spawned. They got a little bit poked out, and then they focused so heavily on JeffHindla. He comes with the taunt right before he dies, and then BaRRaCCuDDa, even though it was a short-range Earthbreaker, still connects for about 30% of most of the players' lives.
That's the difference between top-tier Smite and middle-range Smite when you're playing in your own games, is that ultimate from BaRRaCCuDDa, that's a bad Vulcan ultimate in your games at home. But when you're playing on this top level and everybody's able to combine as part of a unit, a lot of times it's less about getting the kill yourself and lowering the threshold needed to confirm the kill. With everybody at half HP, ScaryD gladly jumps in there and just smokes everybody.
And JeffHindla here, getting a little bit pressured out.
A little bit.
I thought he was going to get out, but not enough there. And that's a little bit rough for LG. They're going to have to defend this with only 4 members versus the 5 on Denial.
You know that death right there? Why that death happened? Transcendence. And that's a different start from the Ullr. The bladed arrow combo doesn't do that much damage.
And now, Denial, they're going to be pressuring this. ScaryD jumps forward here, connects onto a few, but now he's going to get turned on. Both his movement abilities are down. He does have his ultimate, but he's going to jump away. Has a good amount of CDR there, 30%, so wasn't too long of a CD.
Tower falls, so Denial gets credit for that one. They're sitting about 66,000 gold. Luminosity about 64. So 2,000 gold, give or take, as Denial looks to extend that one more time. ScaryD gets knocked out of the ultimate due to a good purification coming out from Vetium. Benji's tanking the tower. Everybody else will deal damage on top of it. Mask off the mark with the ultimate, but it's all good because Benji and Xenotronics combine for the doubloon on top of the mid laner. Giving chase to the left side is Andy. but he's just showing presence. The tier 2 has already fallen. Only 3 members alive for Luminosity to defend, and this Phoenix should fall.
Xenotronics ultimates have been so good. The Supernovas, he's never using them unless he has a guaranteed setup from his teammates. Luminosity here, they're actually going to try and defend this, and it's a jump on his Xenotronics, but he's in corporeal form now, and honestly, Denial, they're just chipping away right now. It looks like the call is to retreat. They don't want to risk this. Benji in a little bit of trouble. The stun not on the mark, but ScaryD still pushed back. Denial should remain healthy here as Meditation is popped.
Mask getting aggressive here, looking for the kill on a Scary.
And he's behind the team. And he wants to make a big play. You could see, no one knows. He's looking for Xenotronics. The knock-up not on the mark, though.
Can't find the knock-up. Still lurking on the backside. Andinster and JeffHindla, while the rest of Denial go ahead and take the Phoenix. Thor's in the air. Mask looking for whatever he can grab. If Andy's a little too close, he's getting landed on, but he won't be. Thor just rejoins the rest of the squad.
Are they going to force Fire Giant? I don't think they really should here, and it looks like they're going to back in unison. Someone needs to be careful, though, and stay, because if, honestly, Anhur just watched all 5 members back. He could call for Fire Giant right now. It looks like the team's going to play it safe, though. There are 2 Phoenixes down. They have the Firemans raining in, but honestly, they could have looked to force it. Benji teleports in just in case, because he did see Anhur watch the entire team back in front of his face.
Because they just had the same conversation you did on the broadcast in their comms. They're like, all right, we're going to go ahead and back. Andy just saw all of us back. Benji, can you go teleport now? And then he goes, fine. He teleports, and then, well, nothing's here, guys. Thanks.
Anhur said that his team would not lose a single game for the rest of the split.
This one's tight.
The first game after that statement, they're down right now. Now, don't get me wrong,
this
LG, if there is a king of comebacks, it is both enemy, but more importantly, LG.
Yeah, I mean, LG, they're definitely still in this one. There is a decent enough lead for Denial, but certainly nothing that anybody can't come out from under.
Whoa, everyone's on the left side of the map, and LG are going to get Fire Giant.
Yep. Fire Giant going the way of Luminosity.
Denial have to know this is happening,
yeah.
And they're actually should be able to force this Phoenix in time before anyone backed. You can see actually a couple members of LG backing early,
Sprint
and
pops.
there comes the sprint.
They're looking for the Phoenix. Honestly, if there was a teleport, I think they'd be looking for the game. Stopped everybody backing, but that's not the case. Phoenix goes down, and now BaRRaCCuDDa and the rest of LG on the offensive. Benji trying to do what he can to space, but he just can't find the HP. He's going to run away. Everybody on Luminosity looking towards him. Pull one more time on the Xenotronics as Andy winds up on the good side. BaRRaCCuDDa gets credit for that. Andy gets credit for that. Shadowq very low. JeffHindla's ultimate channeling as well. Mass tapes to the sky to avoid all the damage that Luminosity's bringing. There's a taunt. There's a purification, but it just doesn't matter. The jump forward. ScaryD finds the kill as well. Mask very low.
This could be game. Mass trying to get away. ScaryD not able to find the space. There's the brutalized hammers away. ScaryD going to be focusing on this. And I think Luminosity, they could look to force the end. They are 3 versus 5 though. Have to face Firemans. It looks like they're probably going to trade off to be safe. There's too many towers up, but Denial. That was a very risky play for them. They tried to force it. They pop sprint and LG. They're going to look for it. They want to win this one.
Vetium alive. He's going to pop purification just in case. Order Titan's got a lot of HP. There's only one Phoenix down and 3.
There's no way they can do this.
Towers up. ScaryD picks up the kill on the Mask, so it's just Vetium, and he's got a hair of HP. And he gets the kill on the Vetium. There's so much HP on the Titan.
10 on Benji.
Nobody available to play defense. Denial drops the first game in a game of 2. Luminosity on top.
What an incredible game there. They won with all 3 Phoenixes down. That is normally a death sentence for your squad, especially considering how many towers were still up on Denial's side. But they make clearly the wrong choice. They try and overcommit to that Phoenix. They let LG not only get a free Fire Giant, but they don't know exactly the timing on which it'll take LG. And then 4 players forced to Sanctuary BaRRaCCuDda's ultimate. Mask gets hit, he holds his Sanctuary. And then after that, LG just chased them down. Denial, they couldn't make their call fast enough whether they should engage or fight, or excuse me, engage or back off. And we saw them, you know, kind of waffling where a couple players backed off, and then Andinster. Such a phenomenal play. The big one for me was actually that his target selection between Benji and Xenotronics specifically was perfect. He jumps forward, he starts aggressing onto Benji, and then actually he knocks up Xenotronics, backs up more towards the team, and then he pulls him back in. And because he knows the rest of his team could chase down the mage because that's a clear win, he then switches his target over to Benji and helps finish him off, since that's the tanky target that they really have to worry about. There's no way Xeno's getting out.
It's just the intelligence of making sure to find not necessarily the target that you want to attack, but the target that the game plan needs to attack. Denial make a misplay by about 10 seconds, if that.
That was really surprising because they had Like, that was just super risky to try and out-trade LG because that's what LG, like, thrives on. They have always thrived on giving up objectives and then finding wins elsewhere. They'll let you take their Phoenix if they can get a tier 1 and 2 tier 2s and a speed buff, right? They're like, that's fine, we don't care about it. And instead of just taking their lead and slow pushing it, right, let's force a Phoenix, or excuse me, let's force a Fire Giant fight because we have Fire minions that they're going to have to deal with. Let's, you know, I don't know. That was a really weird call coming out from Denial. Too risky against the king of comebacks, and they paid for it.